Hey, thank you for listening to the Vegan Ambition podcast. I'm here to let you know that you can visit us on our website at theveganambition.com or on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. We post new content every single day. And now, time for the podcast. Hey, I'm Ruji, and today we're joined with Maria, and I'm Ruji. Welcome to the Vegan Ambition podcast number 16. Today's main question is, what is your view of zoos? But before we start, I'd like to thank today's sponsors. I'd like to thank basil, spinach, and of course, walnuts. This podcast is a tool to help vegans, vegetarians, and anyone else who's interested in a plant-based lifestyle or a vegan lifestyle. And the Vegan Ambition is a no-pressure zone and a no-hostility zone. We don't pressure our guests, but are simply here to discuss different viewpoints. I hope you'll join us on this journey, and education is our biggest goal here. And this is Maria. You're a student at the University of Waterloo and co-president of the UW Animal Rights Society, where you advocate for animals' well-being on campus. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and UW Animal Rights Society?
Yeah, totally. So you're definitely right. I am the co-president of UW Animal Rights Society. I've been lucky enough to be with them for just a little over 2 years now. Oh, I guess it's my 2-year anniversary. And basically what we do is we advocate for animal rights on campus. We push for more vegan options on campus. We host bake sales that raise money for animal welfare charities. And, you know, we host guest speakers like Earthling Ed and James Aspie. So those are some big names that we were really excited to have.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've actually never seen either of them speak. But a really funny thing is that James Aspie has a girlfriend, Carly?
Yeah,
she went to my high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she's actually coming on the podcast at some point, hopefully.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so that's kind of funny, but yeah, we'll see if she comes on.
Yeah, she's really nice.
We have to schedule it out. She is very nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember grade 9, and I remember her in grade 9, basically.
Wow. Well, if you're excited for more guest speakers, we have some coming this term, so stay tuned.
Maybe we should work together and have them on the podcast as well.
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit about yourself then, and how you got to veganism and animal rights and all about that?
Sure. So, honestly, I'm trying to be a more positive person, but the way that it came about was kind of a little bit of a pessimistic situation. I was a part of a women's rights group on campus.
Okay.
And I was doing all this like feminist activism, and I was getting really burnt out. And I was getting to the point where I was like, as much as I love to advocate for human rights, humans really suck at times. Like, I was getting really upset at the idea of, like, you know, people thinking they're better than other people, or thinking that women's rights weren't even worth it and all that stuff. And then one day it just kind of clicked for me, and it was like, but, you know, animals, they're harmless little beings, and they just, you know, want to live their lives. And they
Were you already vegetarian or anything?
No. I was still eating the chicken in my freezer that I didn't know how to cook. You know what I mean? So I was it was my first year living in an apartment where, because I moved out of residence on campus, so I wasn't cooking. I was finally cooking for myself. Didn't know how to cook meat very well. And it just clicked for me one day. And from that point on, I just stopped buying animal products. I just ate whatever was left in my fridge. And you know, I always joke that I went vegan cold tofurkey, like
nice
overnight kind of, because it just, I guess it's one of those things, like kind of like when you're teaching a kid how to do something, like, you know, read, and you keep telling them so often, this is how you do it, this is how you do it. And then you just see it click in them. And that's how it happened for me.
Now, how was that? How did going cold I think you're the only person I've had on the podcast that's gone fully cold turkey. So how was that transition? Because I did not do that.
Right. Well, for me, it was just kind of, once I knew the facts, once I knew, you know, how the dairy industry operates, even just, you know, slaughterhouses in general, and how chickens are treated for eggs, it was easy for me to kind of put past my needs. And I just did it because the idea of, even now, if I think about There's been occasional times where I've accidentally eat something non-vegan, and it really weighs on me because I think about that cow, or I think about that chicken, or I think about that pig.
But how was the I mean, for kind of more from a standpoint of how was the diet, because that's the hardest change for people is learning what to eat, what not to eat, learning about all that kind of stuff.
Right.
How did that go? I want to know about that.
Yeah, so I was really into watching YouTubers do like what I eat in a day, specifically Lauren Toyota, who is
She's great.
My queen.
Yeah. Have you ever met her?
I have. I met her a couple times, actually.
I met her once too.
I have this really weird scenario where she remembers me as the person who won a PS3 on New Music Live, like when she was a VJ for Much Music.
She was a VJ for Much Music?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
I didn't know Lauren Toyota
like 10 years ago I met her, and then I met her earlier this year when U of Guelph hosted her, which was really fun.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so I was watching her on YouTube, and I just found that she made it look so easy, and truly, I guess it depends on the person, but for me, it just became so easy. I noticed my shopping bill when I went grocery shopping was so much cheaper because I was buying, I wasn't buying as many boxed things anymore.
Right.
And I just ended up eating healthier because at the time I didn't know of all the junk food vegan options. So for me, it was just a matter of, okay, it's way easier to cook something like rice or pasta than it is to cook like a steak or chicken, because I didn't know what I was doing. I always thought I was going to get sick if it was raw. So yeah, in terms of that, it was a transition for sure, in the sense of I had to adapt my way of cooking and kind of change the mentality of you're so used to like your grain, your vegetables, and your meat. And I had to kind of change that mentality. But otherwise, the actual cooking of the foods and the actual gathering of them was easier than it was before.
Now, what about how you felt? I know I've heard of a lot of people who do cold turkey, and it's either very hard on them or they feel tired or something because they just haven't adjusted to the vegan diet. Like a vegan diet is a bit of an adjustment, and it goes away as soon as you're adjusted. But
totally.
How was that
for me? Actually, at the time, I just happened to be sick. I went out. This is an interesting story, but I went out. I had a smiley piercing at the time that's like right above your teeth, basically. And this girl noticed it and put her finger in my mouth, and I ended up being super sick for a while. And so I feel like part of the whole diet change as well must have come out of feeling so sick for so long. I was, it was about a month of just feeling absolutely terrible. And so actually when I went on the vegan diet, it made me feel better, probably because I wasn't just eating like chips and anything that was dry because I was feeling so nauseous all the time, that eating like whole foods, plant-based was helping me. And, couldn't help the fact that someone put their finger in my mouth and gave me some sort of sickness, but I was feeling better, all things given.
Right.
I have a little bit of a stranger scenario, but
I mean, everyone has a different situation when they go vegan. And I think that's what I kind of tried to like teach people through the podcast is, like I did not do that. I was pescatarian for a while, and then I went vegetarian, and then eventually I went vegan.
Right.
And then there's some people that go cold turkey like you, and there's some people that go like once a week, and then all this kind of stuff.
Totally.
But I actually never recommend people to go cold turkey. I don't know if you do.
No, I don't either, actually. I think
that's good to hear.
I'm a big believer.
Validates me.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in, people doing as much as they can within their means, especially as being a part of a student group on campus, right? We don't tell students, drop your whole life and become like master chefs and cook vegan food. We tell them, do what you can. Instead of getting your chicken when you order your pad thai, get tofu with it instead, or something, small changes. Do what you can. Even my family members right now, they have gone from being heavily, like we're Italian, heavily meat, cheese, all the dairy, into more of a like vegetarian, pescatarian lifestyle. So they've really, I'm proud of just the small changes as well.
Yeah, of course. And I want to just touch on a little bit, how was the transition for you as a person in university? A lot of people when they hear vegan diet, they think that it's difficult. They think that it's a lot of really time consuming. They think that they won't be able to get anything done, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I did not have that situation, but
Right.
how would you say it was for you?
Yeah, so I actually talk a lot about this. You know, I usually share my perspective from a university student. Basically, when I wasn't vegan, my biggest concern was always my food going bad, because typically some animal products go bad faster than plant-based products, right? So constantly
I just
my
leave stuff
milk
in the fridge for like weeks.
Right? So constantly my milk was spoiled, or like I had to check the date on my butter or my cheese or whatever. And I have found, since going vegan as a university student, it's actually easier in the sense of I know that my plant-based milk is going to last so much longer than dairy milk would. I also just started making it a habit where I can spend like an hour at the beginning of the week cooking rice or cooking pasta or whatever, or roasting vegetables, and they will last me throughout the week. And I'm not struggling anymore of like, I have to defrost my meat, or I have to, you know, do whatever I have to do for my diet. It's kind of...
No, you have to defrost your tofu.
Right.
Frozen tofu is... A+ suggestion, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So there's this like other YouTuber that I watched. I forgot his name already. But he made this like fake chicken kind of texture using tofu. And so what he does is he like squeezes out all the juice, all the water, and then freezes it, and then re-squeezes out all the water once it's not frozen anymore.
Thawed?
Yes.
Defrosted?
Defrosted. Those are the words. And then, it turns out like really, really good.
Oh.
But freezing tofu changes the texture.
Wow. I didn't know that. I actually don't buy tofu often.
Oh, really?
Which is a shock to people. I'm one of those vegans that people are like, how are you even vegan? I don't like bananas. I don't like avocados. I will eat tofu, but I'm not like a huge fan.
That's not that bad. I've known somebody who did not like vegetables.
Okay, that's how
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
It was an interesting situation.
That's for sure.
But basically what I'm getting is it's really easy. I mean, I have the same thing. I've had the same package of Daiya cheese in my fridge for like
a while.
2 months. Like
that's a while. Yeah.
Probably too long.
Yeah.
But it's fine. I had it like last week and I felt fine.
Right.
Vegan food just doesn't go bad
it's probably fine. Yeah.
And I think that's really important for students. I mean, we get so caught up with social interactions, with school, with going to the gym, for us who do.
Not me.
I just started. And so it's very time consuming to do certain things. So people are like, well, I don't have time. But most of us have time.
You know, if like last summer I was working 3 jobs, doing school full time, and an executive as part of a club on campus, and I made it work. So I think, you know, I'm a big believer in do whatever you can within your means, but at the same time, like if I can do it, I think you can do it too.
Yeah, I think being a student and being vegan is super easy.
Yeah.
But so you were telling me a bit earlier before the podcast about UW and how they have maybe added some more vegan options and stuff like that. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, totally.
How things are changing?
Yeah. So we've been in contact with the food services on our campus for at least the last 2 years. And we're in the process. We'd like to create an app that basically sources the vegan and vegetarian food options on campus.
Right.
And it'll show you where they are at that time, kind of like Happy Cow, but specifically for our campus.
Right.
And we've been in talks with food services to make sure that, you know, the way that they're displaying their menus on their website can integrate with our app. And I think through those talks was kind of the push that food services wanted or needed in order for us to get more vegan options on campus. We actually had done a whole survey, I think a year and a half ago now, where we had several people on campus fill it out, and they basically, you know, our food services, they wanted proof that people wanted these options.
Yeah.
Obviously, it makes sense. I work at the university as well, part-time, and I get it. You need to have the proof in order to make change because, you know, you're dealing with an institution. And finally, just a few weeks ago, they opened up Fresh. We were lucky enough to go to their like taste test beforehand.
That's cool.
Which was really awesome.
jealous.
Yeah, it's really good, honestly.
Really?
They have like pulled jackfruit, and they have tempeh, and they do bowls, they do pizzas.
That's great. I mean, most of the food on our campus is, how do I put this lately? Not good.
No, for a whole summer, I just ate like rice and French fries on campus. So
Yeah, they introduced they have like a sushi place on our campus, and they last year, I think or the year before, they introduced these like sushi bowls.
Oh,
and
yes.
They have a vegetarian one, and it's I think it's vegan.
Yeah.
I remember eating it as a vegan, so I think so.
Yeah.
And it's pretty good. But that's like the only really good option. So
And
this is exciting.
Yeah, it's crazy because I've worked in like 5 or 6 different departments on campus, and
Right.
every department I'm in, I say, we need more vegan options. And they're like, we agree, even though we're not vegan, but I don't know how to help you. And so we kind of had to figure it out for ourselves. Now, I think if anyone's a UW student and is listening, they should go to Fresh on campus because we need to make sure that the demand stays there because we don't ever want it to go away.
We need an A&W Beyond Burger situation going on.
Yes, exactly. And you know what? I've actually seen people in the KW Vegan Society specifically go on campus to buy their lunch there and then go to their job afterward.
That's cool.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's obviously good. I've eaten there way too many times so far, and it's only been open for a few weeks. So
Great. I got to hit it up next time I'm in there during working hours because it's not right now.
yeah.
It's closed already. But okay, that's awesome. I'm really excited to hear that there are more options at university because I remember in my first year, it's probably similar to your first year, there was I wasn't even vegetarian back then, and I didn't want to eat crap. And there was nothing that wasn't crap. So the fact that there is non-crap vegan options is very exciting.
Yes, totally.
So since you're Italian, you probably like basil, but do you like basil?
I do like basil.
Okay. Basil is a fantastic herb to add to any Italian-style dish.
Oh.
Did you know that 100 grams of basil has 33% of your daily value of vitamin A, as well as 22% of your daily vitamin C intake, and 395% of your daily vitamin K. Not to mention, it also has 24% of your daily intake of iron, 55% of your daily intake of manganese in just 100 grams. And it has a lot of other stuff that I don't want to mention. You can even grow your own fresh basil in your kitchen. So grab a basil plant or some fresh basil at the grocery store and eat it up. Thanks, Basil, for sponsoring today's podcast. Now, Maria, I'd like to get on to today's question, which is, what is your view of zoos?
As a vegan, I would not participate in going to a zoo.
Right.
I think it's with good intention. Like my family will be like, oh, Maria loves animals, so she's going to love going to the zoo.
Yeah.
But I think what people don't realize is, like, I guess people are so removed from the idea that they're actually in captivity, and they see them solely as like educational purposes that they don't realize why I wouldn't be for going to a zoo. And I personally think that it's not the animal's job to be in captivity for our purposes of education, if that's the perspective you take.
Right.
Like if you think about it, like we can learn about animals without keeping them in conditions that are not for them, like seeing polar bears in the heat, or like even places like Marine Land, or, you know, any sort of animal entertainment park where they pitch it as education and like fun, but really these animals are in captivity and they didn't ask for that.
No, they didn't.
Right.
Now I have a question in terms of that. I'll take kind of a the antagonist view.
Sure.
A little bit. Now somebody would also try to argue, I think they would say that, well, there's a lot of good that happens at zoos. For example, they rescue animals, they help animals breed, so on and so on. do you have to say to that?
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. And I think that a lot of people think like that. But what people don't realize is that most of the time, the types of animals that are in zoos are not usually endangered, which is why they're able to be in zoos. Like if there's an endangered species, we wouldn't be taking them and putting them on for show in a zoo. They would be in a place that is specific for their breeding and for the health of their species. So I understand the intention, but it's not really, I guess, necessary for us to keep them in that condition. If we eradicated zoos, we could still learn about animals. They could still receive help with their breeding or whatever their issues are, in a way that doesn't confine them to as small of a space as a football field, right? Like people think, oh, well, they have lots of rooms to run around, but really it's the size of a football field at most, depending on the animal, right?
Yeah. One thing that I actually literally just remembered it, but I've now, it's a little more into perspective for me, which is surprising. I was not for zoos, for the record, but before 1900, there was this concept of essentially zoos, but for people of color.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that existed. There's like photos of it. It's like very, very, it was very like prevalent and stuff. And I think back then zoos weren't actually much of a thing.
Right.
Because I think it was harder to keep animals in captivity.
Right.
So in like a weird way, what we've done is we've understood, and this is going to bleed into speciesism, which is we've understood that all humans are on the same level of us, so those don't exist anymore, thank God.
Right.
But now we are putting animals in a place like that because we believe animals are below us.
Right.
So it's very exciting, kind of. I mean, we know that we're moving towards like hopefully a more vegan society.
Right.
So far, it's getting a little bit better.
Yeah.
So maybe one day we'll actually not have those anymore, where we won't have the kind of view of zoos and a view of something on display in that way.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we even see it right now with circuses, right? They've started removing animals from the circus, depending on your region, of course. But I don't know if it's Ontario specifically, but at least in within our region right now, they've removed animals from the zoos, from the circus. So if that's already happening, it's one step closer to people realizing that, you know, the parking lot at Marineland is bigger than the tanks that the animals are swimming in, or that the same thing with the zoo, right?
Now, we have this interesting thing called the African Lion Safari in Ontario. Right. There's also lots of safaris in countries like in countries in Africa and in East Asia and stuff like that. What is your view of those? They're very similar to zoos, so
yeah, it's actually super interesting because someone contacted UW Animal Rights Society recently and asked us what our opinion was on that, and we kind of pitched it to the whole club to see what people think, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of people who have differing opinions, so I can only speak on behalf of mine. But I personally, although the animals are less, quote unquote, in captivity because they're roaming around and you can like drive your car around, it's still shown that these animals in that type of situation, they have stress. They exhibit stressful behaviors, right? So if you have a car like coming near you.
Just one sec before we go on, because I just remembered. For those who don't know, African Lion Safari is like a zoo, but you can drive through it. And essentially, and I've been when I was a kid, and I went. I think I even went like a couple of years ago before I was vegan. Yep. And you essentially drive through, and the animals, they're in a large open area. They're usually combined with different animals, so they're not usually like forced to be with their themselves. It's a little more open than that. And the animals can come up to your car, and sometimes like they have like monkeys that jump on your car and stuff. And a lot of kids really like it and stuff like that. But it is something that is a thing in our province, at least. Right. And safaris are similarly placed in countries like Africa. And, so I agree with you to say that it doesn't really make sense to have them here.
Right.
Now, what if they're in their natural habitats?
I think that's interesting because if they're in their natural habitats and it's more about, viewing animals in their regular space, I think I can get behind that with a caveat though.
Okay.
I think that we still put animals in a stressful situation by like driving our cars near them or like taking up their space. And I'm not so naive to think that we won't just take up their space because, that's why we have roads and buildings and condos going up and all that, right? But I do think it would be better to be viewing an animal in their natural environment without the confines of some sort of organization profiting off them. I think that's another aspect that I haven't mentioned yet is like the exploitative part of it where you're paying money to someone to see these animals. It's not really like the animals are benefiting at all. Yeah, sure, they get their meals and they might receive some medical treatment. But at the end of the day, they're still in a high stress situation and made to be a thing. They're a thing that you go and see.
And I think that's an interesting point that you bring up in terms of the stress. I mean, that's actually not something that I've really considered, is that you're right that these animals, I mean, a lot of the ones in African lion safari, I think they've gotten used to the stress. But when they first are pushed into that situation, it's a very, very, very stressful situation that doesn't need to exist.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, even if they, so as we say, get used to it, you can still see that it will actually shorten their lifespan. Like, it's been said
which
that
makes sense.
It shortens their lifespans. It, they scratch at themselves or they rip their fur out or they chew on their tails or whatever. And that's just sad. Like, personally, I don't want to see that. And I can I understand the perspective of people who go to zoos or go to African lion safari or go to Marineland, but I think that there's just that lack of education there where when more people get that, they will stop going. Honestly.
I actually disagree. I don't see any perspective of people going to Marineland specifically. African lion safari, I'm a little bit more open. Like I can understand the perspective of it, and zoos also.
Yeah.
Marineland, that place is the worst.
Yeah. What makes you draw the line there?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want any of them to exist, but I think that there's a bit more care that goes into zoos and a bit more care that goes into the African lion safari. Whereas I think Marineland is a place that really pushes their animals to the limits for profit. So, I mean, one thing that you don't see at zoos as often is like shows with dolphins and shows with whales. And, there's been, and Marineland has been in controversy for years. It's not like all of a sudden the vegans are like, oh no, screw Marineland. It's like, no. They've done bad stuff for a long time, and I don't agree with zoos, but I don't think that they are as bad in that sense. They're not good, but they're not as bad. Right. I don't know.
I can understand where you're coming from. Totally.
Yeah. Oh man, I've never been to Marineland because that's ever even as a kid.
Yeah, as a kid it's really weird because I remember going to Marineland and I remember one of the walruses being so stressed out that it actually urinated at the beginning of the performance. And I remember the what are they called? I don't know, the trainer, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's what they're called.
They were so embarrassed about it, and that's the only thing that I can truly remember about Marineland. Besides that, it cost $10 to feed a whale. That's also kind of ridiculous.
That is a little, that's a little bit crazy.
But sounds like Marineland.
I mean, yeah, and I think to touch on your point there too is as well as that, I also think that the animals are in much higher stress situations at places like Marineland versus places like zoos. I mean, again, I don't agree with them, but I do think that there's a bit less stress in zoos, a bit less stress in African lion safari. I don't want them to exist, but they do, and people are a lot more open to them than they are to Marineland.
Yep.
As an example. I mean, when I was younger, I don't know if you've ever heard of this thing, but you can like ride a dolphin
Yes.
in like Mexico and Dominican.
Yeah. Dominican,
I did that when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And back then I was just like, oh yeah, this is dolphin. This is just gonna be fun for me.
Right. It's the
not
thing that you do.
considering again the animal at all.
Mm-hmm.
And not it wasn't at Marineland.
Yeah.
But it was like it was probably
Resort.
even worse conditions for the animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, thinking back to it now, I'm not very happy that I did that, but
We know better now, right?
yes, I don't kill animals.
Yep. Me either.
Good job. Spinach is a lovely vegetable that is crazy healthy for you. 100 grams of fresh spinach has 59% of your daily vitamin A intake, similar to basil. 52% of your daily beta carotene, 49% of your daily folate, 34% of your vitamin C, 460% of your vitamin K, 22% of your magnesium, 43% of your manganese, and 12% of your daily potassium. Look at all those daily values. That is a lot. Spinach works great in many different dishes, and I make this really great spinach lasagna, spinach tofu lasagna. It is really, really good.
That sounds amazing.
Thanks, Spinach, for sponsoring today's podcast. Okay, Maria, I want to know what do you aspire to do by being the president of UW Animal Rights Society? Have your efforts paid off, and what's next?
Okay. So we're in a state right now where, because Sophia, my co-president, and I are graduating within the next year, we're kind of planning what the future of ARS is. So we're doing this great transition period right now where we're working with our vice presidents, Steph and Karen, and we're hoping to kind of get them to a place where they feel confident that they can continue to do the things that we do on campus. What is it you do on campus? Right. Yeah. There are a few things that we'd like to do before we leave. I mentioned that we will have, hopefully pending some, planning, a super cool guest speaker this term. As I mentioned before, we've had James Aspie and Earthling Ed, so it can only keep getting really good.
That's really exciting.
We frequently do our bake sales. We always do bake sales because that's where we raise our money. So last year we donated $2,000 to 4 different charities, so $500 each. One of them being Animal Justice, which was huge because they were the ones that got the cosmetics ban and animal testing on cosmetics ban.
Isn't it in
they got it to.
No, but isn't it not only cosmetics? It's also, I think, like anything that is a body, like anything that...
Oh, maybe.
That's what I remember reading.
Maybe.
I think it's more than just that. Like, I think it's like for gels and for shampoos and stuff as well.
Yeah, I think it does encompass like beauty products in general. Things. Like, I don't think it's just makeup per se. But yeah, we felt, a direct effect of that. Like, we gave them money, and then like 6 months later, they got this... this forward to the Canadian government, and that's huge for us. Yeah. So it's really nice to feel a part of that. I guess I'm trying to think of other things that we have planned for this term. We usually always in the fall term do a fur-free pledge. Cool. So right near the time where people start buying their horrendous Canada Goose jackets, we do a fur-free pledge, which is basically we set up like a huge paper on the wall, and people will sign their names on it, pledging that they won't buy fur that year. I would hope that it meant they wouldn't buy fur ever, but I at least am happy with getting them for the year until they come back to the Student Life Center and sign it for the next year again.
Right.
Yeah, so that's something that we always do in the fall. We try to cover a wide range of topics every term. That's something that's really important to us, and we've noticed with other animal rights groups at other universities that it's really successful in doing that. We usually do something about cruelty-free cosmetics. Like last year, we gave away e.l.f. lipsticks that were given to us, and we always do something with fur. We do cooking classes. We've done a desserts one before and a Thanksgiving cooking class.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I want to go to that.
Yeah. I think this year we might do it Christmas themed,
Cool.
or holiday themed. So I think that will be really fun.
Mm-hmm. Do you get people to sign up for Veganuary in January?
So we haven't specifically done it on campus, but we do always share it when it comes out. I know Veg News on Facebook is really big at getting that out there. So we definitely share that through our social channels. But I think that's something that we can consider to kind of push a little bit more.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
To see. And what's next? I mean, other than I guess you've mentioned it. You got the ban, the animal testing ban. You've gotten UW, our school, to kind of introduce more vegan options. Anything else that has paid off? Any results you've seen, maybe in yourself or in animal rights or whatever?
I think just Sophia and I, when we kind of took on the endeavor of UW Animal Rights Society, my very first term there, we had about, I think it was 8 people in UW Animal Rights Society. We would sit around this humongous table in the Student Life Center, and we would, watch a video on a little laptop, and we'd discuss for like 40 minutes, and we'd all leave.
And did you start it?
No, we didn't start it. Yeah, it was started, I think, 6 years ago now. So we were, I think, like the 3rd or 4th presidents. But basically what happened was we went from that like 8 or so people. Then the next year we had 25 people. Wow. And then the next year we had 45 people. And then this coming week we have our first meeting of the term. So I'm really curious to see just how much it can go from there, right?
That would be amazing.
So it's just been huge to see even just the year over year. And I don't know if it comes down to just people knowing more about us because we've amped up our social media and we are in talks with UW Food Services and we're out there, or if it's just, people care now. Even just last year when people joined, we had a slew of first years come and join us who were already vegan in high school. When I was in high school, I was not thinking about being vegan.
No.
That would have never crossed my mind.
I ate so much not vegan food. Yeah,
right? Me too. I was too worried about boys, half worried about university. So it was just not in my mindset. So to see people coming from high school already interested, or in the summer when people are messaging us on our social media saying, hey, I'm coming to UW in the fall and I want to get involved.
Right.
That's huge for me. It's just, that's
amazing.
We can see it play out just over the last 2 years. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool to hear. And what was I going to ask? I forgot. And I mean, what is your goal after you finish?
Yeah, so I only have, I think it's like 271 days left until convocation.
Don't say that. That's scary.
I'm that excited to graduate. I can't wait. But I will miss UW Animal Rights Society, right? I won't be a student anymore, so I don't really have, that place there. But my co-president and I, so Sophia, we're working right now on creating an activist group in the Kitchener-Waterloo community that will basically be like ARS, but the grown-up version of it,
The grown-up version of it. Nice.
Yeah, and so we're hoping to get activists in the community involved. We have a huge vegan community here in Kitchener-Waterloo. There's over 1,700 members in KW Vegan Society.
That's a lot. That's surprisingly a lot.
Yeah, it's huge. And people don't realize it. So if anyone wants to open more vegan businesses here, this is the place to do it. It's a hub.
There was like a spot on the King Road one time, like last year or the year before, and I emailed Boonburger and I was like, open up.
Oh, you know what's open there now?
Copper Branch.
Oh, yeah. But also there's the new spot that's open, Zero Waste Bulk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to be doing fully waste-free bulk foods, including like vegan specific,
That's cool.
like vegan donuts Finally, donuts in the KW region that are so close to my house.
Yeah. I'm going to have to drive here every single day.
Right?
And I'm going to gain a lot of weight from the donuts. Because right now, the way it is, I think we have to drive to St. Catharines. There's a place there. Mm-hmm. There's a place in Burlington.
Yep.
And then there's lots in Toronto.
And Hamilton, too.
Hamilton? Yeah. Guelph probably has one or two also.
Yeah.
But I don't know for sure.
It.
But there's like a really good donut place in St. Catharines. I know that for sure.
Yep.
So we're just like left in the dark here.
Yeah. And so this is the place to do it, honestly. I remember reading actually, this was 2 years ago that I read this though, so I'm not sure how it pans out now, that Kitchener-Waterloo has the most dense population of vegans in Canada. And I think it was due to their rationale was, you know, we have 2 universities and a college all in a small space. And we have like young, fresh, innovative minds here. And typically, you know, younger people are the ones who are like propelling this vegan movement right now. And so when I read that, I was like, that's huge. Like I'm a part of something huge. Like right here in Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario. Like who thinks of that, right? Yeah. So,
well, there's that vegetarian fast food place on the plaza. Mm-hmm. There's like, if people don't know, there's just like this little restaurant that's existed. It seems like forever. And I mean, I guess there's a reason. I guess there's people that, I mean, it technically does serve meat as well, but it's really focused towards vegetarian food.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess it's been around for a long time. So,
have you ever had their pad thai?
Yes.
What do you think of it?
It's very interesting.
No shade or anything, but this is an ongoing debate in ARS where some people love it and some people hate it.
Yeah. So I really don't I don't have a strong opinion. That's how I would say it.
That's so interesting.
Although the first time I had it, I did not like it.
Yeah.
And then I got it a couple more times and I liked it more.
Developed a palate.
It did. What I like to do, they have this like buffet style thing during the day that they do, and I did that a lot. That was really nice because it was cheap.
Yeah.
But they just redid their menu, for me at least, because I haven't been here in a while.
Right.
And it's more interesting now. I like the menu now more.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm in the camp where I'm not a fan of the pad thai.
Okay. That's okay.
But you know what?
You can get the pad thai from Thai Express. Just
exactly.
Make sure you use veggie sauce and no egg.
You know what though? My Thai here in Kitchener-Waterloo as well, just in Uptown Waterloo here. Amazing. They have labeled vegan options.
Never been there.
Oh my gosh. I had never been there until we had an ARS social, and they hands down have the best pad thai I've ever had. And I always, whenever my family comes up here or I have friends from high school or whoever come up here, I always take them to my Thai.
I disagree. I think the best Thai is in Stratford. And they do a really good veggie Thai.
I can't speak to Stratford.
So good. I know I can't speak to my Thai either. Yeah, but I do like veggie fast food overall as a place. Yeah. And so I'm very excited for the day that I will come back here and there was so many vegan restaurants.
Yeah.
Or all vegan. I mean, preferably all vegan restaurants.
Totally. I agree.
But it's nice to hear that Waterloo's changing, that this huge organization is actually doing something. And that's something to like note for people who are listening is, you know, you may be in a position where you think that the world isn't changing. You think that your school isn't changing. You think that it's very difficult right now. And maybe it is. Maybe you live somewhere where there are no options, where there's nothing for you to eat on campus. But persistence, talking, and making sure that you make your views heard works. I mean, again, when both of us started here, there was like no vegan, no vegetarian options on campus. I mean, I think the only vegetarian one, do they even do that? Was like the sushi. They would do like, like it was like
the really bad pre-packaged sushi.
Yeah. And like fries. Yeah. And even then, I think a lot of like campuses, and our campus especially, had a lot of very unhealthy food.
Yep.
And thankfully, that is starting to change. So, you know, it's all about making sure that you keep going, that you keep pushing, and things will happen.
Yeah.
And that's a very exciting thing to hear. It's exciting to hear the validation of it because, a lot of people who are not vegan, they say, well, my impact doesn't matter.
Right.
And I say, well, you know what? I go to Sobeys or to Zehrs or to Walmart, and there's 10 times more options than there was a year ago or 2 years ago.
Right.
So it is changing, and it's so exciting to see that. And Maria has clearly validated that as well from a different perspective. And it's very, very cool. Did you know that without the shells, walnuts are 15% protein, 65% fat, which sounds like a lot, 14% carbs, and 7% dietary fiber? Now, I know that fat percentage is scary to some people, but having certain amounts of fat is actually really good for you. Not to mention that fats are found in walnuts are polyunsaturated fats, and these are generally considered to be good fats and overall just good. For example, 1/4 cup of walnuts can provide more than 100% of the daily recommended value of plant-based omega-3 fats and high levels of copper, manganese, and more. Walnuts are great food to have in your kitchen cupboard. Thank you, walnuts, for sponsoring today's episode. Whew. That was a lot of words. Before we go to the end, is there anything that you'd like to say, Maria?
I think just hitting on that last note that we talked about how we constantly feel like we don't have the capability to change things. Just this past weekend, I was at the Ontario Plant-Based Student Association student activist conference where there were 7 schools from across Ontario. Some of the executives in plant-based clubs got together and we sat down and we talked about the struggles that we face as students on campus, plant-based students running animal rights related clubs. And one of the biggest thing that came up was constantly people saying, I feel like I could do more. I constantly feel like I'm not doing enough. And I think we need to celebrate our successes. When you really sit down, even just now talking about when you asked me, what else have you done? All these things sprung into my head of all these just little successes that we've had over just only 2 years. And you can see every year, it's like, I think in the UK it was like vegan meats went up purchasing by 600% in a year or something. Like just these small things that we can each do every day.
Or even the big one that was here for us in Canada was A&W released the Beyond Burger, and it's been sold out for like a month now, which is ridiculous.
They come back October 1st.
Crazy. Yeah. And that never ever happened when a burger place released a veggie burger before.
Right.
Never.
Right.
So it's changing, and even if those people, I know like my brother-in-law and my sister, they went and they got the Beyond Burger with me, and they're not even vegan,
right?
So that doesn't even matter. They liked it. Like my brother-in-law literally told me, I would rather get this at A&W than a regular burger, because I felt really like it was really good, and I felt really good after it.
Yeah.
And so it's totally like it's happening, and the small successes.
Exactly.
Totally
and why
fair.
wouldn't you want to be a part of it? You can just change these small little things and you can be a part of this big thing,
Yeah. And I think, if you're like one of those people who really likes to like see the impact they're doing, this is the place to start, because go vegan for whatever reason you want to go vegan. I encourage you to go vegan for every reason. But if you want to see your impact in 5 years, if you start something today, 5 years, you will see your impact.
Yep.
It is crazy.
Yep.
The world is changing. It's hopefully going to get vegan, very vegan. That's like hopefully gonna happen.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just even thinking about, just to mention also
go ahead.
The cookie at Starbucks the vegan cookie that
they
Starbucks
released a vegan cookie.
Yeah, mind you, it's like a health cookie. It has like cranberries and seeds in it, but it's still vegan. Really good, and it's vegan, and it's coming out of Starbucks. They also have like their vegan salads, and they made their pumpkin spice lattes vegan now because they used to contain dairy. So it's just, as I mentioned from the very beginning of this podcast, that I started off from like a really negative place where I was like, I hate humans and I love animals. And now I'm at the point where it's like, we have to love each other enough. We have to love us as human animals enough to be compelled to be a part of something big and want to change, right?
That's amazing. I'd like to thank today's sponsors, which were basil, spinach, and walnuts, Maria, and you, the listeners, for being here with us today. You can find Maria at Maria May Marketing on Instagram, which is MariaMay, and then marketing, MarkeTing. Is that right?
Yep.
On Instagram. If you have a question, a suggestion, you want to be a sponsor, or you want to be on an episode, you can send us an email at veganambitionpodcast@gmail.com or visit our website, theveganambition.com. That's the website. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day. You can say thanks, too.
Oh, thanks. See ya.